Hey, Chris, I'm happy to be here today. Yep, Chris Brewer, and I'm located today in Newport Richey, Florida, which is where I've got my remote office. My
hmm
company is based in Springfield, Missouri. It's called OMG Commerce, and we are a 15-year performance marketing firm for direct-to-consumer brands who are currently working through scaling or profitability challenges. So we help them solve those challenges with a strategic roadmap we put together that accomplishes, for the most part of almost brands, their omni-channel goals. And I've got been married coming up here next month, 30 years to my beautiful
Whoa.
wife, Jenny. We've got two kids, one that's currently a fractional COO, and the other one, my son, is based actually in Springfield, Missouri, and he and his wife are just getting started trying to figure things out. But that's a little bit about me. And my business partner is Brett Curry, my other co-founder, and he's the CEO of our agency.
hmm Got it. Amazing. How long have you been in Newport Richey?
We moved to Florida. I'll back up. I was I actually grew up in Missouri where our company is located, but a professional golf aspirational journey had me in Florida over 30 years ago. And
hmm
that's where I met my wife. She was a Florida native and got married, got a job offer, coincidentally in Missouri, where I moved her out of Florida. And after you blink a few times, 25 years go by, you raise kids. And in our circumstance, her parents' health was starting to decline.
hmm
So we bought a property down here, started snowbirding, and then determined we needed to be down here full time so she could
hmm
have a caretaking role for her parents.
hmm
And you fast forward and you have a couple of hurricanes and two flooded homes, and we just bought a house a little bit away from the coast where we just moved mom and dad in with us. So that's a new thing for me, but
Whoa.
that's what has me here.
Yeah. And I know I'm from Tampa, Clearwater originally. And I know this last hurricane, we were a bit worried about my dad's house because he's right on the water and has no flood insurance.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things when you go through a natural disaster, you see them on TV, you see other people affected, whether it's a tornado or it's California fires or earthquakes or whatever, you see it, you're like,
hmm
oh man, that's really a bummer for those people. And then you go back to work the next day and you live your life and you go to
Yeah.
and fro and you do your shopping. And when you actually are in that disaster, wow, it is truly life-changing. And and for us, I've been pretty vocal about it, and I've posted on LinkedIn some about it, about just even the mental challenges that go with being in a disaster area, seeing what's happened to people and to your own property. We lost a Airbnb rental house. We lost our own home. So we had two properties that
Oh
both
my
got
goodness.
water and are
Sorry.
both in still 6 months, over 6 months later, still in various stages of repair and or disrepair. And uh, for ourselves, we lived in a camper starting a couple of weeks after Hurricane Helene hit us, and then had to evacuate for Hurricane Milton in the camper, and then put it back on our property after it was all over. And I ran my business and uh, everything else out of that 31-foot camper for over 6 months, and then we just said nope, can't do this anymore. Houses still aren't ready, so that's it's definitely something to be aware of in terms of if you've been through those situations. You know what I'm saying. If you
hmm
don't, that's fantastic. Hope it never happens to you, but I think in a lot of cases, it's been a good process to go through, just learning how your brain processes events and things like that, while also trying to be an entrepreneur and a leader and all of those kind of things. So interesting
Mhm.
life lessons.
Yeah, that's an understatement if I've ever heard one.
Yeah,
Well, I'm glad you and your wife and your family are safe. Those were some scary storms. I know them too well.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So awesome. So getting back to your career and history, how did you find yourself in marketing, focused on marketing?
How did I find myself in marketing? Well, I'll say that the first thing that comes to mind, this goes way back, and it's a little storytelling, which is the way that I roll, which is what keeps podcasts interesting. And and so I was actually my dad was a breakaway entrepreneur, meaning he was in corporate America for many years, but he would moonlight using his vacation time to do what he's really passionate about, which is speaking and training other organizations. So dad was a member of the National Speakers Association, and he would go out and do keynotes and uh, group group talks and things like that. And then I saw him step away, and now it's really fascinating. When you're young, you're like, oh, look what dad's doing. But when you become your father's age, or you've passed your father's age, you're like, wow, dad left his corporate job at 40 something to be an entrepreneur.
Wow.
And so that like adds a whole new level of respect to things.
Hmm.
But that's where for me, I was young and was actually attending Mississippi State University, and I saw a yellow flyer that was posted on a wall somewhere about a spring break trip to the Bahamas. And I thought, college, 20 something, man, spring break in the Bahamas. Now that is something I'd like to do. And I, back then, there was no internet. I know it's shocking for some of you listening to this, but there was no internet. And so what you did is you called an 800 number, and they sent you a package with a videotape, and you popped that in the old VCR and you watched the video. You didn't, there was no YouTube. So you
Hmm.
watched the video. And I watched this
Mm.
video, and back then I was in broadcast production as my degree field. And I thought, man, this video sucks. It's terrible. Like the quality and, everything else. And so that was when my first entrepreneurial moment popped into my head. And I thought,
Mm.
I wonder if there's a way for me to get a trip to the Bahamas and work a little business deal. So I called those guys up, said, hey, your video stinks, and I would like you to hire me to produce a new video. And in exchange, you send me there. We went a little bit back and forth, and I got it. And then I had to figure out, well, I got to have a camera. So first call was to dad. And you can Google this, it'd be fun. But back then, the height of technology was a Panasonic Super VHS camera.
Mm.
And and it was thousands of dollars uh, to purchase. And my awesome dad, probably seeing my entrepreneurial streak starting in me or whatever, bought this camera so that I could get a free trip to the Bahamas. And so I had this thing, and it was in a huge case. Anyway, long story short, I did the video. I used the college's editing facilities to edit the video, everything else. The company is called Spring Break Travel out of Carolina somewhere. And
Hmm.
I went and had a great time in the Bahamas, and I shot a lot of B-roll footage and edited it together. And they used that video for years.
Wow.
And so that's how I originally got into marketing. And then later I ended up working at a scuba store at another college I was attending. That we won't get into all my college adventures. But I was in Texas now at another school, and I was working at a scuba shop and ended up pulling off this marketing thing to get some free money and free stuff actually from a trash bag company because I organized this lake cleanup deal and put this whole marketing thing together to get people to participate and there wasn't a whole lot of like that stuff going on back then, but again it was a way to see, oh wow, I can get what I want out of this if I just ask the right people and I put the right pitch together. Because if you help other people get what they want, you'll get most of the time what you want. And so that's
Mm.
how I kind of got into, wow, this entrepreneurial and marketing seems really fun. And then once I got out of school, I got some professional golf stuff out of my system and tried to go out and play professionally for a little while. And then when I realized I actually needed to make money through a variety of circumstances, my dad had always told me that if you learn how to sell, that you'll never be poor. And that always stuck with me. And so when I was in a golf shop one day at a country club called Isleworth in Windermere, Florida, which famously was the site of Tiger Woods backing into the fire hydrant back in
Oh,
the when that news
yeah,
hit
yeah.
the news. And I was in there one day, and one of the members came in, and I was talking about, hey, man, I'm getting married. I do not know what I'm going to do. And he said, you should be in sales. And so then my dad's words, or I'm like, oh, here's another person telling me I should learn how to sell. So I went and found a job in sales, and
Hmm.
it was actually in advertising at that time, selling real estate advertising to realtors, which made me realize I don't really want to work with realtors ever again. But
Mm.
because they just most of them were 80-20 rule, 80% disorganized, 20% were successful. And then I had to go sell advertising to all of them. And and that allowed me to see, wow, okay, I can sell. And if I sell, I'm noticed for it. And then other people want me to come sell for them. And so that's how my journey got started.
Hmm. Awesome. Awesome. It's all kind of eerily similar to mine. I came at this from like a filmmaker writing perspective.
Hmm.
So I learned how to shoot and edit, and then I was like, well, no one's paying me for these short films. Maybe if I make some commercials, they'll pay me for
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, those were some of my first jobs as well.
Yeah.
Just, hey, your
Yeah.
commercial sucks. I'll make you a better one for like
Yeah.
500 bucks.
Yeah, that's how my more famous brother got his start. He actually was doing video yearbooks back in the day and was editing travel videos for some guy and figured out the same way that I could get paid for this and that evolved into his own company and got an MTV award for Taylor Swift's uh, album and that he did videos for and so many other
Wow.
incredible artists. But it's another story of just go with your passion, what you love, and usually it all works out. Um,
Hmm.
and so yeah, and I highly recommend anybody listening to this. You're like, well, hey, sales, I'm not really connecting with sales. Well, no problem. Connect with your passion and follow out how you can monetize what you're passionate about. And usually that will work itself out.
Hmm. Absolutely. Wise words. So I think everyone can benefit from improving their sales game, and it sounds like being a great salesman was cornerstone or foundational to your success. Do you have any insights or experiences to share around becoming a great salesman?
Well, one, I would say that There are some people who are born with gifts that will enable them to be really top salespeople, but I believe that everyone is in sales. Because if you've ever gotten into any argument, whether it's a spouse or a business partner or anything else, you're using sales tactics to win that argument or try or try. And and so I would just say that uh, from a skill set that I do highly encourage anyone who is in business or especially own their own business to familiarize yourself at least with modern sales methodologies and I'll say tactics. These days it's much more difficult, I think, in some ways because of the prevalence of just information, data, and everything else. But it all comes down to, I believe, relationship. And so if you start with relationship and working hard to focus on what you can solve for the other person, how I can help you, and then you do that in a way that's not manipulative, that is putting that person's needs and benefits in front of your own need for commission or a paycheck or anything else like that, you will build relationships who will refer you to other potential people later because you haven't sold them in an unethical or manipulative way. But I would say that in the beginning, what I encourage everyone to do, if you haven't, and I don't care how old you are, there's always a great time to do that. But sales is really about effective communication. And if you are not an effective communicator, and I can guarantee you this, if you think that you're a great communicator, you probably aren't as great as you think you are. And there's always ways to improve your communication skills. And so I would say the first step in becoming better from a sales and even marketing perspective is to become a better communicator. And for me, the biggest gift I was ever given was the gentleman, Glenn Fetzner. I'll drop his name because he's still in business down in South Florida, running his own business, very successful company. One of his brothers hired me in my first job out of the golf industry, which was selling in that real estate publication. And when I took the job, he said, here's two things that you have to do if you want to maintain this job. One, you've got to listen to this Brian Tracy psychology of selling training. And you have to listen to the whole course at least 3 times. And back then it was in cassette tapes. It wasn't digital. So I had to pop that in the old cassette tape player and listen. They had like 12 cassettes, double-sided, and I had to listen to that 3 times before I could go back
Whoa.
and say, hey, I've done it. And the interesting thing that happened, and to me, this is where, you have master classes on YouTube and you have things you can take, but this is key. And I think for anyone who's coming up in their career right now, what's missed a lot today is repetition. And what happens is because our attention spans are so short now because of scroll mentality and shiny object syndrome and what's the latest, there's not a lot of depth in training. And so you go to a conference, you hear somebody, you write down 2 or 3 bullet points, you go home, you implement one of them. You go to a training, you take a few notes, you move on, you go back to work. What if that YouTube video that was an hour and 20 minutes long that you really got a lot out of, what if you went back and listened to that 2, 3, 4 more times? Because the way that trainer is speaking, the topics, what happened to me is I found myself at 24, 25 years old, maybe, who knew nothing about sales. After listening to Brian Tracy 3 times probably over 6 hours, so 18 or 20 hours of repetition, I found myself in front of my clients and prospects sounding like Brian Tracy on that training. Things were coming out of my mouth that I had heard repeatedly. And so that was the first thing is effective training and repetition. That's the secret sauce that most people don't do is they don't repeat it enough times for it to become integral to what they're doing on a day over day basis. The second thing I was told in taking that job is, hey, every Friday morning at 7 a.m., and that's when I was like, what? 7 a.m. Because at 20, again, 25, I was still sleeping in till 9 or 10. But hey, every Friday at 7 a.m., you're going to be at the Langford Hotel in Winter Park, Florida for Toastmasters. And if you haven't ever heard of Toastmasters, Google it. It's a international speaking training group, which is incredibly affordable. And if you find the right group near you, it can be incredibly powerful and encouraging even to yourself. And so I went to Toastmasters and learned how to speak on my feet, learned how to deliver presentations. And again, that those two things that my first employer told me I had to do were game changers for me. And so that's what I would say in terms of going all the way back to your question about, how did you get into sales or how did you start? It really just started with somebody being a mentor to me and saying, here's the places you can go to equip yourself to begin succeeding. And so that began really a lifelong journey for me of constantly trying to stay up with what's working because the training I got back then, it's changed quite a bit. And so you also have to be aware of constantly being aware of what's working and what's not.
Hmm. Awesome. You've inspired me. I'm gonna go listen to Brian Tracy's Psychology of Selling two more times because I only listened to it once.
There you go.
But I'll just do the YouTube or download. I don't think I'll do the tapes.
Yeah, yeah, no, you won't be able to find them, and then you have to go find a player, and then the audio won't be as good either. So there you go.
Yeah. I think I saw it at like a Goodwill. It was like huge. It looked like it was like the size of a record and it was like thick,
Yeah,
20 tapes in
there's
it or
some
something.
YouTube videos that are fun right now where they'll take a cassette tape and they'll put it in a 15 or 16-year-old or 20-year-old's hands and go, "What is this?" And they'll be like, I have no idea." And they'll start pulling out, it's pretty fascinating how
Crazy,
fast things
crazy.
change.
Yeah. Um, awesome. So tell me, how did you decide performance marketing was uh, the next move? That was the path.
Again, it's an evolution and it's making the most of the circumstances that you're dealt. And so for me, I had actually started after I moved to Missouri and actually had a job selling billboards and in Branson, Missouri, which is a little community that's got a lot of like music theaters. And back then it was some people on your podcast will recognize, but a lot of them probably won't. Names like Andy Williams and Bobby Vinton and Tony Orlando. So anybody who was a famous or semi-famous singer in the 50s, 60s, 70s, when their career started to go a little bit south because they were just getting older, but they still had a huge base. They built these theaters, music theaters, and tons of people in buses and bus groups would bus into Branson and go and see these music shows. So they had billboards around there for all these shows and entertainers. It was basically like a mini Las Vegas without the casinos or the bars. And people are like, well, why would I want to go there? Anyway, so it was a very wholesome place and it was and fun. So anyway, I was selling billboards there and And so that was sales mostly, and it was marketing, but not a lot because you're just putting a sign up on the street, and you're obviously got to make sure the message is there, and you got 7 seconds or less to deliver your message. So you do have to think about headlines and your copy and things like that. And then the guy that hired me, as I was looking um, to what I was going to do next, said, if you start a direct mail magazine in your market doing coupons, direct mailing offers and restaurant coupons and things, you'll never look back. So in between having another job and some other things, I launched that as well. And so that started me into publishing and running offers and things in print there. And then as I was doing that, the website and internet was getting off the ground. And I thought, because I was in the billboard business, why not get into signs online? So I started a site called findasign.com, which was a locator service for billboards, and also you could order signage and things. So I was one of the first
Catchy name.
internet sign companies that was out there. And uh, and so again, I built that business and sold it after a while, and then was trying to figure out what I was going to do next. And I went to a marketing conference in Dallas with my current business partner, Brett Curry, at the time. And uh, we were listening to a stage presentation. This was one of those marketing super conferences they used to have where you'd go and you'd hear these incredible presentations. And then there was a rush to the back of the room to go buy overpriced opportunities. But you were so excited, you went ahead and signed on them. And so there was a guy there talking about Google Maps. And Google Maps is still around. If you're saying restaurant near me or dry cleaner near me or anything, you're still going to see a Google Map result. And then you're going to hit directions and start and go get what you want. Well, back then, there was a lot of businesses that were set up automatically on Google through their database, but these businesses weren't claiming their listing and optimizing them and filling them out with photos and being able to get reviews and things like that. So this guy was talking about, hey, you can go sell this service, which is free, but you can sell this service to business owners and do it for them. And so I got excited about that. And that's what started back then a company called Local Marketing Giant, where in the first year in Little Springfield, Missouri, we sold $30,000 worth of Google Maps optimization at $199 to $297 a pop to local businesses.
Wow.
And uh, so that was kind of the start of performance marketing, if you want to go there, because back then it was if you were a local moving company, and if I put in Springfield, Missouri movers, and you had not optimized your listing, you were probably not going to show up in the top 5 results and not do so well. So we were able back then to optimize the listing, do a little keyword stuffing, and within 48 hours to a week, they were usually in the top 5. And so it was impressive from a result standpoint. That grew into local marketing services for small businesses, Google pay-per-click services for small business, SEO services for small business. And we got into franchise groups, and the business started growing and was doing very well. And then we started seeing some of those local businesses get websites to sell merchandise online. And that's when my business partner Brett said, I really think the direction we should go as a company is e-commerce and get away from these local businesses that may not have the size scale opportunity that e-commerce does. And it was a very good call. And so we switched and pivoted to e-commerce performance marketing, which the performance, if you're unfamiliar with that term, it simply means that through the strategy that we determine for a business and the media that we're going to place, whether it's Facebook ads, Instagram ads, Google search ads, Amazon ads, even loyalty, email marketing, all of those things combined and doing those effectively with best practices and even innovative practices, we're having a business pay us X amount per month and they have a goal to have a certain profit percentage or return on their ad spend. And we're able to show through our results, we're performing at a 2, 3, 4x return and scaling their business up. And so that's what performance marketing is, and that's how we got there.
Mm. Wow. Okay. That's this is quite a story you have here, Chris. I'm enjoying
Oh,
it.
I got stories. You haven't figured that out already. I got stories.
This is great. So how does it work these days? Like what kind of clients are you working with? What sort of strategies are you employing?
Yeah.
And what niches do you focus on?
Yeah, so our client base is what's called direct to consumer brands primarily. We may have 10 or 15% of our client base that is B2B. So for instance, we have a large uh, division of a company that does welding supplies. And they sell some of those welding supplies on Amazon, but the bulk of their business is through a dealer network. So we're helping this brand be more visible to the consumer base of welders out there in the United States so that when they go into a dealer, their product preference is this particular brand. So we're both helping a B2B company have the right amount of visibility so that they can push through sales to their dealers or direct sales for them on Amazon. The other 90% of our business, 85% of our business is those direct to consumer brands. So these are those, for the most part, disruptor kind of brands, meaning, Chris, I'll just ask you a question. Um, think of a coffee maker brand. Can you think of a coffee maker brand?
Um, the Keurig.
Keurig. Okay, good. That's a good example. So Keurig, big corporate entity, right? Their distribution worldwide. They have the Cape, they got the pod, and now they were kind of a disruptor when they started because they started with the coffee pods. So used to, you get a filter, you put the coffee in, you gotta wait for it to drip. Well, with Keurig, you pop in the pod, you got instant coffee. So that's a little bit of an example of a disruptor, but they've been around so long, everybody's got pods now. So a direct to consumer brand might come out and let's just call them Cafe Supreme. So Cafe Supreme comes out and they go and they source a new kind of coffee maker or a new kind of pod. Let's say they get rid of the plastic because plastic's a big thing now, microplastics and all that issue. And this product is out there, but this is just sake of the discussion. And they go with a completely organic pod that's paper, that's environmentally friendly, and even the coffee maker is made from recycled plastic or even metal. So they're disrupting the segment by offering a safe alternative to the plastic pods with a delivery mechanism that's sustainable. So that's an example of somebody that might create that product, and then they're looking to steal away some of that Keurig market. It can be with personal care products. Who take a look at Gillette. Gillette. When you think of razor, you probably think of Gillette. However, the biggest disruptor that came out originally was Harry's. So Harry's was a
Mm,
razor that came out and disrupted that whole market by selling direct to consumer. You don't have to go to Target. You don't have to go to Walmart. You can go to Amazon. You can go to our website, and we're going to put you on a subscription to deliver you razors. You may remember the Dollar Shave Club that came out.
hmm
That was a disruptor. Now you've got others. You've got Jeremy's, which is a brand that's from the Daily Wire company. Those guys, and they have a whole their videos are really hilarious, even though they may make some people mad because they're really on the conservative end and they're like, hey, our razors are meant for real men and all of these kinds of things. So they're grabbing a certain segment. So whether it's personal care or it's pet products or it's even furniture, or consumables. These are all, that's what the internet's enabled people to do, is create these direct sales channels. And then the interesting thing is as the business has changed, you heard me say omni-channel later, is these aren't just brands selling on Shopify anymore. As the brands scale, now they're suddenly going to Walmart and getting their products on shelves in Walmart. They're getting their products on the shelf at Cabela's or Bass Pro or places like that. So they're starting as direct to consumer e-com, but now they're getting, because their brand has grown and now it's got more appeal and more acceptance, now they're able to go in store, because a lot of people think e-commerce is just taking over, but still retail owns. Like you are having a lot of big box stores, that have gone out over the years and closed their doors because the channels have shifted. Not all the market is there. But, I was just shopping for some golf shoes a couple days ago, and I actually went into a retail place and I was amazed on a Sunday afternoon how many people were in there shopping in physical stores and carrying out merchandise. So we just focus on a little piece of that segment in that performance marketing realm.
Hmm. Okay, gotcha. Um, that's that's awesome. So, oh man, I have so many more questions.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, is you ask me one question and I take you on a whole adventure.
Yes, and you're a very good storyteller as well. So it's an enjoyable adventure for someone like me who loves stories. So, um, how you mentioned helping companies scale and reaching profitability. Um, you know, do you only work with specific types of direct to consumer companies?
Oh no, there's
Um,
there's very few segments that we won't work with. Um,
mhm,
if there's anything that's going to be embarrassing or uncomfortable for my team to sell, we won't do it. So,
mhm,
but other than that, we cast a really wide net across all kinds of products, and we're in a time that's also very challenging for these brands. If you've Depending on when you're listening to this podcast, the market's under incredible pressure right now with the
oh my
tariff
gosh. Yeah,
situation.
China. Yeah.
And a lot of consumers out there, if you think you're not impacted by this, just wait 3 months, because you're about to see empty shelves and things that are not going to be available that maybe you thought would be available, because
Mm,
a lot of the shipments into LA right now are down 60%. And you remember just maybe a year ago, year and a half ago, post COVID, when everything opened up, they were jammed. It was weeks that some of these cargo ships had to wait just to unload their goods. Now we're at the reverse of it. And it's not an if, when this situation resolves itself, you're going to have a situation where there's not enough inventory, prices are already high because of the situation. And so it's going to take a time. I do believe this was a necessary step for the US to take. Whether I agree with all the methods of how it was implemented is another story. This has been very challenging for a lot of my clients.
mhm,
And so, you could argue one way or another that casting the wide net was the way to go. It's just going to be painful for a short time, or targeting in on specific sectors and allowing businesses a chance to adapt. That's all a bit debatable, but the result is it's going to be an interesting situation. So we are working right now with how to navigate profitability in environments where uh, entities outside your control are creating 50, 100, 220% price increases. I saw a little video my wife actually just showed me minutes before I hopped on this, that uh, the Shein Marketplace and Temu
Mm-hmm.
that they were showing an example of a steamer that was $25 for this steamer to iron out your clothes, wrinkles, and things like that. And it was free shipping, fantastic, free shipping. But the import charge was $46.22. So the import charge was almost double the price of the product. They showed another
Yikes.
little like a garden planter kind of thing that was $120, and the free shipping and the import charge was $147. So uh, I do think that those marketplaces needed a bit of a kick in the pants because they were affecting US brands
Mm-hmm.
selling direct. And that's what a lot of folks just don't know is a lot of people think that they know inherently that there's a lot of products that are made in China. What they don't know is that a lot of those products made in China are US businesses that employ 3, 5, 10, 50 individuals in the US that have warehouse employees and 3PL logistics companies to support all that. So the product may come out of China, but there's a ton of small businesses in the US that rely on that supply chain. And so you cut that off, you are impacting dramatically small business in the US.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of people lose sight of that. Um, we don't get these products. Chinese nationals don't come over here to distribute the products. They're
Right.
usually imported.
Yeah, yeah. And they were with Temu. I mean, a lot of these factories were selling direct, and I do think that needed to be corrected. And a lot of, when we went through COVID and that whole supply chain issue, a lot of businesses did shift their production from China to Vietnam or from China to to other countries.
Hmm.
So, uh, thankfully, not all of my clients have Chinese supply chain challenges right now, but everyone is impacted by it.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and there'll be winners. There'll be winners out of this. There'll be losers out of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I could ask you questions for the next 3 hours, but I will respect your time and we will start wrapping up here.
Sure.
So, a large portion of our audience is financial advisors,
Hmm.
and they like to work with business owners, successful, insightful, driven business owners such as yourself. To the extent that you're comfortable sharing, do you work with a financial advisor? If so, how did you find them? If not, is that ever something you would be open to?
Oh yeah, I've worked with a variety of financial advisors over the years. I think unfortunately, a lot of business owners think a CPA is their financial advisor.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, no disrespect to any CPAs that are listening. If you're a CPA that actually is a true financial and wealth planner advisor, awesome. But there's a lot of folks that just think that because a CPA is doing their taxes and giving them some tax advice, that that is a financial advisor. So the people that I look for, and yes, I'm currently working with a wealth management firm. I've had a lot of businesses over the years. I'm 56. If you didn't guess by my cassette tape references earlier, if you're not watching this podcast, I have a bit of gray hair. So I am wanting to make sure that I plan for my future. So I have been through a variety of financial planners, wealth advisors over the years, some better than others. My current one right now, I think, is fantastic. And I do highly recommend folks that if you've got any kind of retirement or future plans for your life, you should be talking to a top rated uh, fiduciary. I will
Mm-hmm.
add that
Mm-hmm.
as well uh,
Yes.
to manage your investments.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And just real quick, how did you find them?
Started with, I think it actually started with an email. It's all who you know to a degree. I saw an email, I saw a positive comment, then I went to Google reviews. I read some Google reviews and then went and had a conversation face to face and got comfortable, asked for references. And I don't even think I actually followed up on the references because for me, if you're willing to give me a name and a phone number who's a current client, you're not going to give me, if you're unwilling to give me any references, then I'm unwilling to give you my business. So, um, so yeah, I'm working with a company right now. I could drop their name, but it's a great group. It's a small group, um, and because I think with CPAs, I've had so much similar experience with CPAs over the years, and I think it's just because how they are wired to run their business, and they're not all the time wired to really um, even be as aggressive or uh, blur the lines a bit without being unethical, because I don't want to do anything immoral or unethical. But sometimes CPAs will just tell you, absolutely not, you cannot do that. And then you go talk to your attorney or you talk to a different financial advisor, like, well, they're being way too conservative because actually we have dozens of clients that use this strategy and it's very, effective for them. So that's why, you know, if you've had the same CPA for 15 years, and you've never worked with a financial advisor, that should change like tomorrow.
Hmm. Amen. Amen. Thank you for sharing that. So, Chris, my final question for you is an open-ended question. You can take it in any direction that you like, and the
Mhm.
question is, what are you working towards?
I actually am working towards a full or partial business exit right
Mm.
now,
Hmm.
which again brings up financial advisor questions. But
Hmm.
um, I've been doing the same thing for 15 years. I've been fortunate to have the same business partner for 15 years without having to hire attorneys and getting uncomfortable, warm temperature rooms where things are argued about and fought about. So,
Hmm.
been fortunate to have
That's amazing.
maintained a civil discourse with my business partner for that length of time. But after a while, it's time for a change. And I kind of looking right now to take some equity and some chips off the table in my business and exercise those into other avenues, things that for me are more um, legacy related. I really don't think that in 3 years after I leave my company, no one's going to be going, oh, I wish we had Chris back here, or man, remember back in the day when Chris did this or did that. They're going to move on. And so what do I really have other than 15 years of providing for my family and providing excellent service to my clients? That's great. They might remember me for how I ran the business, but moving forward, I want to do some things that again are more uh, from a service perspective. I'm definitely going to start other entrepreneurial ventures and I'm going to invest in other things. But where I want to spend my time is in things that last much longer. Uh, I, I I love working with people from other cultures and helping them make a way for themselves where they can't right now. I'm actually one of my little things. I actually have never told anyone this other than my wife and maybe a couple friends know this, but there's a guy that I have helped in Mozambique. I won't get
Oh
into
my
how I came
gosh.
across the
Awesome.
guy, but it definitely wasn't a Nubian Prince email how I got in contact with him. But but no, I came across this guy that was selling fruit on the street in Mozambique and was literally trying to make a dollar or two a day. And when you think about how much you spend for a Starbucks cup of coffee, and here's a guy actually trying to sell things on the street, it for me it touched my heart and said, well, what could I do here? Long
Hmm.
story short, this guy's been able to build a new house for his family in
Wow.
Mozambique. He's got an Upwork account, works as a freelancer. Uh, I was able to help him figure out how he could get a laptop, how he could um, get a bank account with the country in the country, and I've been able to hire him through my company for different projects. And my goal is with people like this is not to have them reliant on handouts, even though they're in a country that's very, very difficult to get by. But be able in our economy that's worldwide that they can find jobs that for them, it may be 15 bucks for the job that a business would have had to pay 100 or 150 for, but that $15 keeps them eating for the whole month. So those are the kinds of things that I'm very passionate about. I'm actually very excited to travel there and meet him and meet his family, hopefully in the next year.
Hmm.
But those are the kind of things I want to be involved with is helping people realize that they're not limited by their circumstances. Um, and there's some other things from just a ministry perspective. Faith is a very big part of my life that also I want to get involved that way as well, and helping people discover that there's more to life than what you got right here in front of you, and that you can build a legacy that's a lot more meaningful there from a spiritual basis. So those are the things that are ahead of me, and that's what I'm working towards, Chris.
Hmm. Awesome. Awesome. Well, we'll be excited to watch you on that journey. And where can my audience find out more about you?
Pretty easy. LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I actually haven't posted any content today, so I'll probably do that after after the podcast. But my username on LinkedIn is called Mo Marketer. Mo Marketer comes because I used to live in Missouri, so Mo Marketer.
Uh,
That's also my hashtag on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And I post occasionally there. And then if you want to get in touch with me through my company, it's omgcommerce.com. And you just click on the contact us, and that actually gets right to me. So a variety of ways. And I love to connect with people and just have cool conversations.
yeah. Well, I appreciate you accepting our connection and having this cool conversation with me and my audience. I really enjoyed getting to know you, and you have an incredible story that's just continuing on its way up. So
Yeah.
that's great.
Thank you, Chris. I had fun.
Yeah. All right. And to all our listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in and keep on growing out there, everybody. See ya.